Okay, so I just want to say good morning. Welcome everybody to our June or to our January meeting. Thank you for joining us, for taking the time to be here this morning. I just want to say Happy New Year. This is the first meeting of this year, 2023. I hope everybody had a good holiday with your loved ones, with family. I know that I was back home in Oklahoma and I was really cold because I'm used to triple digits out here. So it was really cold back home and my family couldn't believe how soft I became, but it was a lot of fun. So welcome everybody. And again, thank you for joining us this morning. We're going to go ahead and get started. So I would like to call the meeting to order at 11:09 a.m. So as a custom of how we would like to do, we would like to give respect to the lands and the people upon which we are currently at. So if you'll just bear with me for just a few moments, I'd like to read our statement on the land acknowledgement. Beneath the contemporary surface of any site in the United States, there are histories of belonging that have been erased, overlooked, contested, and forgotten, all ways to support ideas like manifest destiny, which justified the conquest of native lands. Between 1776 and 1887, the United States seized over 1.5 billion acres from America's indigenous people by treaty and executive order. There are currently 574 sovereign tribal nations, variously called tribes, nations, bands, pueblos, communities, and native villages that have a formal nation-to-nation relationship with the U.S. government. There are 334 federally and state-recognized American Indian reservations in 2010. These 574 tribal nations are located across 35 states and within the geographical borders of the United States. Even within the U.S. borders, each tribal nation exercises its own sovereignty. Each of the 574 tribal governments is legally defined as a federally recognized tribal nation. Every community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contributed their hopes, dreams, and energy to making the history that led to this moment in time. Some were brought here against their will. Some were drawn to leave their distant homes in hope of a better life, and some have lived on this land since time immemorial. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. We begin this effort to acknowledge what has been buried by honoring the truth. Today, we acknowledge the ancestral lands of the Tohono O'odham and the Waimea people upon which I currently am. I also acknowledge the homelands of the Ackmel O'odham and the Peepush people upon which the AIEA headquarters stands. We pay respects to their elders, past and present. Please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that brings us together here today. And please join us in uncovering such truths at any and all public events. So I just want to say thank you for allowing us to read this statement. Again, I think it's just important that we acknowledge the homelands of wherever we are. We also encourage you to do the same. So as a quick overview of the agenda, as you can see on the screen here, we have our the welcome, the land acknowledgement, and we're going to do some quick introductions. We'll go through the approval of the minutes, presidents and treasurers reports. We'll have Indian education updates, go into old business, new business, and any program share outs, and then we'll adjourn for the day today. So we do have quite a bit on the agenda, but as mentioned, I like to do our introductions first. So Nawa Kwahat, Hatso M Toya, Goigu, Masik Chawi and Dog, Kimberly Denkabige Khan. My name is Kimberly Denkabige. For those who may not know who I am of the Kiowa, Caddo, and Pawnee Nations, originally from Oklahoma, currently reside in Tucson, Arizona, and I currently sit as the president for the Arizona Indian Education Association. My day job is a coordinator for the Native American Education Program with the Amphitheater Public Schools. So I want to say again, welcome and thank you for joining us this morning. I would like our executive officers to introduce themselves, and then Travis, if you don't mind, if we can just go down the list after our executive officers has introduced themselves, and we'll start with our Vice President, Esther.
Ja, Biligana Bashichin, Bashihi Dashi Che, Biligana Dashanale, She Esther Nystrom Ganeshe. Good morning. My name is Esther Nystrom, and I'm currently the sitting Vice President of AIEA. I also am the ASU.
Esther, you went silent. We heard you were with ASU and then you went silent.
Okay, so and then I'm also the CEO and founder of Bitterwater Design and Cultural Learning. And thank you. Thank you for letting me be here today.
Sheila?
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Hi. Sorry, I'm not on video because I'm in the middle of something else too. But I'm Sheila Cypress. I'm the Native American Program Coordinator with Scottsdale Unified School District, and also this year's treasurer of AIEA. Hopefully, I'll be more in tune once we get our records moved over from Travis to me. So we're working that in the process. So maybe next month I'll be talking.
Travis?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Travis Lane, and I currently serve as the Secretary for Arizona Indian Education. It's good to see everybody.
Okay, so we'll go down the list of how I have on my screen. So first up is Sarah. You're on mute, Sarah.
Now can you hear me? Okay, sorry. I was rambling on. Yate, she Sarah Woody Jackson Yanishia Twitch eating Nishlan, Twitzel Nepa Shishin, Sanjikinet Dashichedo, Tapaha Dashinella. And I just want to say thank you all for having me again today. I am the current program project specialist with the Office of Indian Education, and I am here representing our office. Our director should be coming on as well. Her name is Linan Yazi. If not, I am here to answer any questions and assist in any way that I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Next we have Cassandra.
Yate, good morning. Always a little awkward trying to get the mute and video on at the same time. So here she halson schletzena bitli bashichin twodik oje dashiche zit agni dashinala Cassandra Scott a dashijinne. I am the new director of the Tahotna Odom Community College Phoenix Center Director. So I just started here in November, just looking to listen in on the needs and wants of the community. So I thought I would join your meeting. Nice to see Travis. I know Travis from way back. So I'm looking forward to working and hearing from all of you today.
Thank you, Cassandra, and welcome. We extend the invitation to always join our meetings. Our meetings are held every third Friday of every month unless otherwise noted. And if you don't mind dropping your information in the chat, you can start receiving our updates for the meeting notices also. So again, thank you for joining us. Next, we have Katie.
Trying to find the unmute button. My name's Katie Parker. I am with White River Unified School District up in the White Mountains. And again, I was trying to take a picture, but it won't let me. We have approximately a 1.5 feet of snow and growing. So I'm definitely not going anywhere. So I'm glad to be with you guys on this day.
Stay warm up there. All right, thank you, Katie. Next, we have Margaret. Margaret, if you're able to unmute. She did drop in the chat. She says, good morning, everyone. Her name is Margaret Blaine. She is Tana Atham. She works with the Amphitheater Native Education Program, and her audio isn't working too well. So she is actually my coworker, so I always appreciate her support in joining us for these meetings today. So thank you, Margaret, for joining us. Next, we have Stephanie.
Bojo, Stephanie Hawk Nadejnikos, Shishi Bini Bodawatami Kwe and Dao, Tecumseh, Oklahoma and Dojpia. Hello, I'm Stephanie Hawk. I am citizen Potawatomi. I am coming at you from Tecumseh, Oklahoma, and I work for the National Indian Education Association as Tribal State Policy Associate. And I am cold. It is still cold here. I think it was 28 degrees this morning, so got my heater on.
Yeah, it's been cold there. I keep in touch with family back home in Oklahoma, and it's been really freezing for them. And like I was mentioning, my son's up in Durango, and he said, Mom, I think the heater went out last night in my room. So they're in the 20s up there, 20s and 30s. So yes, very cold. Stay warm, Stephanie. Thank you.
I will say it was 70 degrees this last weekend.
Yeah, well, that's Oklahoma weather.
Yeah.
Grew up in that. So thank you for joining us this morning. And finally, we have Joaquin.
Hi out there, Joaquin Preston. Totsoni initially, Kiklab Bashishi includes the clinic Deshiche, Torechini Deshanele. Again, my name is Joaquin Preston. I am from National Indian Education Association, Tribal State Policy Associate, along with Stephanie. And I am based here in Phoenix, Arizona. So very close to you all out here. And I just like to, be present, support AIEA where we can. And I'll be giving a little update later on in the agenda. So good morning, everybody. Good to see you.
Thank you, Joaquin. Always a pleasure to have you joining our meetings. You provide great updates on a national level for our Indian education. So appreciate you joining us and your colleague here. All right, so we do have, again, thank you everybody for those quick introductions. As always, we appreciate and invite you to always come back to our general meetings, and any of our events that we have, we always extend an invitation to you as well. If you have not been receiving any of our updates, we do ask, we are in a transitional phase as far as our AIEA leadership. So if you have not been receiving our updates, please drop your information in the chat box. We'll be sure and grab that to make sure we have the correct email address on file on our listserv, as well as anybody else that you may come into contact with that has not been receiving our updates. Just please tell them to contact us by our Gmail, and then we'll make sure that they're on board with our email listserv. So again, just a quick agenda overview of what we went through, and then our next meeting will be held on February 17th. So please mark your calendars for that date. That again, it's every third Friday unless otherwise noted. So thank you. Next on the agenda, we have the approval of the minutes. As I mentioned, we are in a transitional phase for our leadership. So we currently do not have all of the meeting minutes that you see listed here. I do want to make note that December was an informational meeting only. We did not have a quorum for the December meeting, but we did go ahead and hold it just as an informational session. So we did share out a lot of information during that time. As a reminder, all of our updates all of our video recordings for the past meetings are uploaded on our YouTube channel. So if you get a chance, and if you haven't seen our YouTube channel, please, would encourage you and direct you to go to there so you can see the past meetings that we've been having over the past few months. And so all the meetings are uploaded on our YouTube channel. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. But at this time, again, just due to the note that you see here, due to the transition in AIEA leadership, the meeting minutes listed are requested to be tabled until the February meeting. When once we do have all of those, we will get those meeting minutes out to the membership in a timely manner. I would like for you to read through them and not rush through on just approving just to approve them. So we'll get those out to you as soon as we have all of those on hand. So I would like to call for a motion to table the meeting minutes for the dates listed here.
Good morning, this is Esther. I'd like to make a motion to table June, September, October, November meeting minutes until further notice.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
This is Sheila. I'll second.
Okay, we do have a second. Thank you, Sheila and Esther. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, like sign. All those who abstain, like sign. Is there any discussion? All right, motion passed. Thank you all so much. Appreciate that. Next on the agenda, we have the president's report. Normally, I would give a whole list of information that I compile over the month and more recent, current events or happenings within Indian education, but our State Department and the national organization does a great job on updating us as far as Indian education issues or things that pertain to us. And so today is going to be just a little bit different for my report. For those who were not in the December meeting, and I want to apologize ahead of time because some of this may be a repeat from what you heard, but I do want to present a report for the trip that we took or that I took to NIEA back in October. And so it's taken this long to try and give that report just due to what we've had on the agenda and a lot of other factors that come into play. So my apologies for giving the report such a late time. But first and foremost, I do want to acknowledge that AIEA did provide a letter of support to the National Science Foundation grant for ASU. The grant was submitted by Dr. Sarah Al-Saeed, who is a research assistant professor and co-director of the Biomimicry Center with the Arizona State University. The role that she would like for AIEA to have would be to as an intention to collaborate with them. They are planning a conference specifically focusing upon biomimicry. And so if you remember back in, I want to say either August or September, we did have a professional development where the ASU Biomimicry Center actually came in and did the presentation. That was the first time I ever heard of what biomimicry is. And so when I told my son about it, because he's in environmental studies, and when I learned what that meant, he got really excited. So it started this huge conversation with us about, because that's exactly what he studies. And so it was really interesting and exciting to hear, and very intriguing on what biomimicry is. And so when this opportunity came up, I met with our executives and we decided that it would be a support from AIEA to support this type of conference. What this type of conference is wanting to do is to focus upon the indigenous knowledges and different approaches to science and sustainability. So AIEA was contacted by Jacob Moore regarding the National Science Foundation grant proposal from ASU's Biomimicry Center requesting a letter of support. The grant proposal is for a conference with Native American educators and biomimicry leaders to discuss potential synergies and support to broaden and deepen the understanding of STEM with indigenous knowledges and different approaches to science and sustainability. So from the cultural perspective is what they're trying to, implement into the STEM portion, focusing on the biomimicry that is going to be presented at this type of conference. And so this is in the planning stages. They're hoping to be awarded this grant, so that way this would be something we could bring to our families and our students here within Arizona. But I have not heard from Dr. Al Saeed. The proposal was submitted last December, and I'm not quite sure what the timeline is on that, but as soon as I hear back from her, then we'll definitely move forward and try and assist in the ways that we can. She did request that if anybody is interested, they do offer a curriculum for middle schoolers, and that is available for anybody who would like to get information on that. So if you do want some information, please drop your information in regard to the ASU Biomimicry Center and the chat, and then I'll be sure to pull that and send that information to you. She was generous enough to forward some of that curriculum directly to us, and so we'll get that to you if you're interested in doing that. So are there any questions? All right. If there are none, we'll move on. And this is where I would like to start with my presentation about, or my report for attending the National Indian Education Association's annual convention. It was held in October 6th through the 8th in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And so they actually had some pre meetings or events that took place before the actual conference. And so that's what this slide is here. As a pre-launch to convention, NIEA held their first annual Educator Day. There was a keynote panel on Native representation in literature and media. And the 4 panelists included Tracy Sorrell, author of Powwow Day, She Persisted, a book about Wilma Mankiller, We Are Still Here, The Native American Truths Everyone Should Know, Indian No More, and We Are Grateful. I don't know how to say the remaining part, but I'm assuming it's in her tribal language. There was also Kim Rogers, who was the author of Just Like Grandma and A Letter for Bob, I Am Osage, and she was also a contributor to a book, Ancestor Approved, Intertribal Stories for Kids. And thirdly, there was Stephen Paul Judd, who is an artist, filmmaker, screenwriter, who co-authored and illustrated the graphic novel Res Detectives with Tuli Jacobs. And then lastly, there was Madeline Goodnight, who was the 4th panelist. She is the illustrator of Powwow Day, Look Grandma, it's in her tribal language, and then the book, The Pear Tree. So these 4 panelists, I thought it was really interesting. The pictures that you see here, that's registration for the Educators Day. They gave us some nice bags for that specific event for that day, so it was really nice. So we actually got 2 bags for those who went back. I don't know if we were supposed to, so Joaquin and Stephanie, I just got 1. No, I'm just kidding. And then the picture on the bottom shows where the panelists were actually up in the front. So you see how many educators actually came for this pre-day event that took place before the actual NIEA annual convention took place. And so it was really great to see other educators there. I have a picture with Stephen Paul Judd specifically because he is actually my relative on my Kiowa side. We come from the same family, so in our Kiowa people, we're not, we don't go by clans, we go by families. And so with our bigger family, my Tanada family, we both come from that family. So our great grandmothers were sisters. And so that's how I'm related to Stephen Paul Judd. So he's actually a brother, distant brother to me on my Kiowa side. So every time I see him, we always enjoy our visit. And even though it's always short because he's really busy doing great things out there. So he's actually shared some videos with me for my students here in my district for the short videos that, or short clips that he does for you know, like I said, he's a artist and filmmaker and screenwriter. And so there's a lot of videos that he shares that I'm fortunate that he shares with me to share out to my students. So one of the ones that he had was about fry bread. So it's funny if you haven't seen it, but they're really cool videos that he does. And he's continuing to do great work out there in Indian country. So it was really good to see him. And so that was the first day. There's a lot of other things that happened and sessions that took place. This was really an amazing conference because there's so many sessions that you could attend, and there were so many that I wanted to, but sometimes the timing just didn't connect. And so for this conference, I did specifically attend sessions that were specific for Arizona because I do want to bring that back for our educators within the state here on improvements or any best practices that can be shared out to our membership here. And so this was just one of the sessions or the keynote panel that they had in regard to reading literature for children. So I do have some of the, like I said, some of the novels that I listed that they did write. I'll share those out in a written report that I'll provide to the membership too. And so again, this was day one. Then I attended the White House Initiative engagement session on urban Indigenous education, specifically because we work with I work specifically within an urban setting here for my school district. So it's also beneficial for me to get that knowledge and hear those stories about what they did with their students. And so this session was hosted by the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Indian Education. Various groups participated in this session, sharing their experiences on working with urban environments. One highlight was from the Oklahoma City Public Schools Director, Dr. Star Yellowfish. She explained several challenges for the students when it comes to testing. She actually just had well, not just now, but she created a youth council within her school district with the larger Oklahoma City Public Schools, and they're doing great work there that sets a really good model for the rest of our Indian education programs on how to get our students involved and engaged. When it comes to testing for the challenges for the students and just having these unique needs, which also led to the creation of a booklet for teachers to use as a resource when teaching Oklahoma history. So we have started some type of work like that here in the state of Arizona through our state office. And so that's still in the works. And I think they're still continuing that work on trying to get that out as a resource guide for our teachers to help provide some information about the tribes within the state. And so that's what the From Trails to Truth picture that you see here. And so some of the engagement questions, unfortunately, I didn't even write them on my notes, but let me see if I can read. One of the questions was, what are the unique challenges and opportunities that your urban Indigenous students face? What is Indigenous education to you? What practices do you have for that vision? What are the support systems that sustain and advance Indigenous education? And what policy efforts have you engaged in? What areas would involve, I'm assuming, the students, but there was a lot of information that was shared. If you see in the top picture, there was the group was in a circle, and each of these groups were from different areas within Indian country, and they shared out their experiences, like I mentioned, of what they did and how they got their students engaged and answers to these questions of what their challenges were and the what Indigenous education was, as well as support system and policies that they had in place. And so it was really interesting to hear what they had shared out. So there's a lot of best practices that were also shared that I'll provide in a written report to everybody also. And then finally, just the last picture that you see here. This is Julian Guerrero, who is actually my nephew on my Kiowa side as well. And so I got to see a lot of family, but I think my family's really involved in education. So it was really nice to see them there. But he is currently the director for the Office of Indian Education at Washington, D.C., who used to be the former Indian Education Director over the state of Oklahoma. And he did amazing work within the state on bringing light of the Indigenous education there in the state. And so that work continues through Jackie White as the current state director there for the Office of Indian Education. But it was really a good session. And so again, I'll get some just hard materials that I'll be able to share out to the membership as well. Then we had a National Johnson O'Malley Association JOM session. We specifically highlighted the resolutions that were recently passed at the annual convention in September. And so the National Johnson O'Malley Association hosted this JOM informational session and shared the resolutions that were presented at the September annual conference. The first resolution is a resolution of the National Johnson O'Malley Association supporting Section 310 Johnson O'Malley funding. This resolution specifically highlights what we would like highlighted and the reason why we support this legislative funding is specifically the legislative amendment of an annual increase of 6%. And so this annual increase of 6% amendment is a part of a larger bill that Senator Warren is going to be introducing in Congress, this Congress. And so we're hopeful in continuing to advocate on behalf of the Johnson O'Malley or the Johnson O'Malley funds and the programs, because a lot of our educators also receive the JOM funds. And so this would be a significant increase to assist our programs in the future. And so this is something that the National Association is very highly in support of. And so at the annual conference, this was one of the resolutions that was passed during the general membership. And so we were just sharing it out during this particular session. The second resolution had a lot of discussion. It was a resolution of the National Johnson O'Malley Association supporting the clarification of the definition of an eligible Native American Alaska Native student. There's 3 definitions that we amended that we would like to see included. One is the first definition of an eligible student is one who is enrolled, a member, or pending enrollment in a federally recognized tribe. Number 2, can show proof or descendancy or lineage from an eligible individual and or certified degree of Indian blood card from a federally recognized tribe. Or 3, and this is the addition that we included, or collectively qualifies for membership or citizenship in 2 or more federally recognized tribes. So what that means is if there's students who are Native but aren't Native enough for that specific tribe to be an enrolled member, if they can combine their blood quantum, say if my tribe, we currently are 1/4 degree that we are federally enrolled in the Kiowa tribe. So if there's a Kiowa out there or a student who is part Kiowa, part Caddo, I'll use my other tribes, and Pawnee, and they don't meet the 1/4 degree of Kiowa blood, then the combination of the Kiowa, Caddo, and Pawnee blood quantum, if that constitutes up to 1/4 degree, then that would put them as qualifying as a Johnson O'Malley eligible student. And so that's one of the additions that we had a lot of discussion with the attendees at the national conference, at the annual conference, as well as in this particular session. And so we're hoping that this amendment and legislative language will go through so that way we can provide further services through our JOM programs. And lastly, a resolution of the National Johnson O'Malley supporting annual reporting and conferring with the United States Congress. This is just a continuous resolution that they keep on providing that supports the JOM Board of Directors to meet with and or communicate with congressional members. So one of the things that they're going to be doing is going up to Hill Week, which will be taking place. I'm sure Joaquin will mention that during his update, but that's going to be coming up in March. And so this resolution just allows the JOM Board of Directors to be a part of that continuing advocacy on behalf of the JOM program and the funds. Almost done. There were actually 4 sessions. That's what the middle picture is showing here, that were one that built upon each other. But this was specifically geared for the ITEP program, which is the Indigenous Teachers Education Program. Here at the University of Arizona, 2 of the professors from that particular program has joined in with other professors that in Indian country on this transformative proxies. And so this is actually leading into something bigger. I don't have all the details for that yet, but it's good things that are happening with this. So the first session I attended was the transformative proxies, the convergence of transformative research theories and proxies. I don't know if I'm even saying that right. So this one was reconceptualizing Indigenous education rooted in critical Indigenous studies and pedagogies becomes a process of activating a critical consciousness that renews and sustains Indigenous values and goals through and across decisions made around curriculum, pedagogy, policies, assessments, and other aspects of education. The session focused around the questions of what Indigenous theories and concepts guide your work. How can the intersection of Indigenous research and theories inform an education that enacts self-determination, sovereignty, and nation building? it led into, like I said, these workshops built on each other. And so the second portion that I went to, I was able to attend, was the Native American Teacher Education Pathways, which addresses Native teacher education through legislation. This session focused on Native education schools, our unique models of education that build community pride and prepare our youth grounded through our native languages, cultures, histories, worldviews, and pedagogies. One of the greatest challenges is the shortage of teachers trained for Native American learning environments and the teaching of Native children. The Native American Teacher Education Pathway Act addresses this longstanding teacher shortage issue. The session discussed the strides in Native teacher education, current models, and how to support the passing of the Native American Teacher Education Pathway Act. So this was actually an advocacy workshop on how we could help support in passing that particular act. And so the picture that you see on the far right was actually my group. Our question was, what does a school that teaches Native children look and feel like? And so we shared out what we thought. This was our own thoughts as educators that work directly with Native American students. And so some of the things that we highlighted was community. We're, just that saying that it takes a village to raise a child. So that community, we wanted to have that open connection and that communication between our students and those of us who are teaching this material to them, as well as the families. If there's any factors that come into play that hinder them from learning, then it's a community of learning, and it's a process that we go through to encourage the education for our children. It is centered flexibility. The circle, we talked a lot about the circle meaning what your classroom would look like. And so we envision a classroom for our Native students, and from our Native perspectives, that instead of having the standard classroom seating of, what we're so used to in academia, our classroom would look like a circle. And so we would have our students in a circle because the circle is a significant symbol for a lot of our Indigenous communities. It represents the life way. It represents, coming full circle in life from being born to being of old age, and that wisdom and comes into play of what you learn throughout those stages of life. But it comes to a full circle that it's a journey. And so that's what we envisioned. We talked about Native languages. We talked about cultural enrichment to make it welcoming and inviting for the students to be a part of the classroom. And so these were a lot of ideas that we shared out during that particular session. And we're actually both sessions of what we saw as teaching in a classroom with Native American students. And so it was a really interesting. I wasn't able to attend the other two sessions, but I'm fortunate that Dr. Garcia and Dr. Shirley are here at the U of A here in Tucson. I could get some information to them if anybody would like more information about that. And then one of the other sessions was supporting tribal nation building through computer science. This session provided an overview of a new scholarship program at the University of Oklahoma, the Computer Science Indigenous Community of Learners United to Develop, Excel, and Succeed. So all that is the CS includes. That's what that stands for. It's a discussion included. The discussion included the application process, the program design, and types of student support and resources. The goal with this project is to develop computer scientists who are prepared to build tribal nations. The family education model guides and how students are served who are coming from tribal nations in a way that fits culturally and academically. Services and programming come from the concept of relationships and family and the motivation to give back and values of reciprocity. This project will also help the university institutionalize the structures that could form sustainable pathways to computer science for Indigenous students. And this program was created because there's not that many students that graduate with this type of degree. When they hear STEM, a lot of Indigenous students kind of shy away from it because it's a lot of math, science, and things like that. But this is a program that helps encourage and gives the pathway, give more information, give more direction for those students to go into this particular field, specifically for the tribal nation building. It was really neat to hear. There was a graduate assistant, Casey Haskins, who shared her experience and going through the program. And now she was actually one of the presenters alongside the other professors there. And she shared her journey of and made that educational connection of going through the program and how it helped her and how she's continuing to provide this information out for this upcoming students a part of the program. So I did attend this session because I also know the presenters that are pictured here. On the left, right behind me is Dr. Natalie Youngbull. On the right side is Dr. Heather Schotten. And right in the back is Mr. Steve Martin. They are contributors and editors for the book Beyond the Asterisk. And so if you haven't heard of that, I encourage you to look that up and to take a read at it. It's specifically about higher education, but it's a book that discusses how Native Americans are often excluded from data reporting and research on college students, relegated to an asterisk, denoting the population as statistically insignificant. And so you always hear students say, you know, we were just a number, we're just counted as a number, but there's so much more behind it that this book actually provides insight into the higher education pathway for acknowledging the learning abilities of our Native American students. And so I just wanted to highlight that. I thought it was really cool that I got to take a picture with those authors. And so they shared out a lot of great information during that session too. I have a whole bunch of brochures and pamphlets from that session that they just gave to me and filled up my bag. So once we are able to meet in person, I'll share that out also to everybody. And then almost done, I promise. Culturally sustaining, revitalizing education with Indigenous students in Arizona. So you may notice some of these presenters that are here, Ms. Helen Thomas and Brooke Curley here. They are actually out of the Office of Indian Education there at the State Department. Their session was culturally responsive teaching and learning in public schools is not only an educational equity imperative, but also a matter of educational sovereignty. Educators learned about the Arizona Office of Indian Education's approach to culturally responsive education with Indigenous students. Participants reflected and discussed resources, tools, and strategies within their community. And so the slide that you see here is recommendations for the National Council for Social Studies position statement. So they shared out a lot of resources that I'll also pull that. And there's actually a QR code that they have that they share out the resources. You just click on it and it automatically, magically brings everything up. But these ladies are so talented that I really appreciate the work that they do within the state office there and the information that they give out. We actually had a full house within this conference or within this session. And it was during the time right before they had the Indigenous Peoples Day Symposium. And so there was a lot of questions and great information that was shared out during that time. But I do have some flyers for this one also that I'll be able to share out for at a later time. And then 2 more slides. If you'll notice, you might notice some people on here. This is Joaquin. It was really good to see a familiar face from home. So he is one of the friendly faces I saw as soon as I went to the conference. And so it was nice to see him being there because we haven't seen him in a really long time. Of course, not only with the pandemic, but just the transitional positions that he had changed. And he used to be with ITCA here in Arizona that we worked with him many years ago also. And so he's doing great work. So thank you, Joaquin, for the work that you do. Also in the picture, you see down at the bottom below Joaquin and I, as Esther actually traveled with me there also. She was there in her business capacity, not for AIEA, but she was there with me. So we took several pictures together on our trip there. But we are actually pictured with Cecilia Fire Thunder. Cecilia Fire Thunder was one of the awardees for the NIEA Annual Convention. We actually got to have lunch with her that day. So it was a great honor to sit alongside her and to visit with her about the wonderful work that she continues to do. She's very vocal. And so if you haven't had a chance to visit with her, I encourage you to look her up and to do so. She's really approachable, and she has a lot of great information that very educational information that she can share with you in the process of working with Native students. And so up in the other two pictures are those who I work directly with. Kimberly Beckwith, she's actually our regional representative for our Johnson O'Malley funds through the Bureau of Indian Education. And then the far right is Angela Barnett. She is actually up in Alaska now, but she was the former representative for our region for the Johnson O'Malley funds a couple of years ago. And so it was overall a good networking that we were able to do. I was able to get contacts and actually meet people face to face. Kimberly Beckwith was actually one of those persons who was really excited to meet me in person because we worked so close together on Zoom that we had never met in person. So this was our initial meeting. So it was great to see everybody and connect during that time. And then finally, this is my last slide. We ended with our, we had General Assembly every day of the conference. These pictures are particularly from the last General Assembly that we have. Overall, it was a really wonderful conference with a lot of great information. We're very fortunate that Esther, as I mentioned, also attended. So she went to different sessions. We wanted to try and bring back more information as much as possible, not only for the programs and the work that we do, but also for AIEA. And so there's my picture proving I was there. So we are actually pictured here with the executive director of NIEA, Miss Diana Koyener. I always can't get her name correct, but correct me if I'm wrong. But she's a great person, and the work that she does is fantastic and phenomenal with NIEA. And so we're really honored to be able to visit with her upon being there at the conference. They did have a social powwow, a social gathering the Friday night before the last day. And so that's what that picture that you see there. It was a large gathering. There was a lot of people that came. And so we were able to join in. They actually had all of the educators, those who are teachers or educators with Indian education, to come out into the arena. So they did do an honor dance for all of us in the arena. So it was a really nice gathering that they did on behalf of the NIEA and our educators. And then finally, the last picture is Esther and I with Steve Martin. Steve is the director for, I can't remember his correct title, but he works with Native American students there in Ada, Oklahoma at East Central University. So we were invited to come down and do presentations. Esther actually did a cultural presentation showcasing the Navajo weaving, and she sang a song for the students there. And so, or the invitees that were there were the deans of the colleges that were part of ECU, as well as the students, and invited elders that were from the Chickasaw Nation that were actually there during that event. And it was their Indigenous Peoples Day that took place, and that's what we were invited to. And I was the keynote speaker for that particular event. And so I touched on the peoplehood matrix. For those who may not know, we can share that out also. And so this is just a quick overview. I say quick, it took some time, but I knew it would. So that's why I just wanted to dive right on in. But please feel free to ask any questions or any information that you would like. Please drop your name in the chat. We'll be sure and get that information out to you. And so just for the sake of time, if there are any questions, then please, again, just directly email me, or you can email our AIEA Gmail, or drop your questions in the chat and I'll answer them as the meeting continues. But at this time, I just want to say thank you for your patience. I know that was a lot and took a little bit longer than I anticipated, but I appreciate you listening in. And so we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is our treasurer's report. I'm sure you're tired of listening to me, so I am going to actually turn it over to Travis. Or Sheila, I'm sorry, Travis and Sheila.
Sheila, do you want to give the report, or do you want me to give the report?
Actually, if you could do that for this time, I'm kind of in the middle of something.
Not a problem. Well, good morning, everybody. Again, it's good to see everybody, and happy Friday. Before I give my report, as secretary, I'm working on updating our contact list for the AIEA contact list. And the list is a little outdated. So I'm going to put in the chat tribes and organizations that have been members of AIEA that we no longer have a representation. I don't have emails for. So if there's anyone that might be able to help us reconnect with those tribes who have been members of AIEA in the past, or those organizations or schools that have been members of AIEA in the past, and connect them with myself, that'd be very helpful so that we can ensure that they're aware of AIEA activities and future meetings. When I give my treasurer's update in the past, I like to give some context to the history of AIEA. We started the organization's roots started in the 70s. It was a group of Indian parents in the Phoenix Valley who were very concerned about the manner in which JOM funding was being dispersed to their schools. They were being dispersed on a late basis, and I think that's still a challenge today. And so they came together, they talked with the state and tried to figure out new ways in which they could work with the state to get the money to the schools more quickly. And they did eventually formalize an organization in the 80s. Many of you know Teresa Price. She was one of the very founding members of that organization back in the 80s. And they continued to meet throughout the 80s and 90s. And in the early 2000s, they established a 501c3 nonprofit organization, Arizona Indian Education Association. And we established a bank account through Desert Financial when that nonprofit began, and we were very successful in those early days to provide youth conferences and parent conferences. The state universities and local universities were very great partners in the past to coordinate those conferences. ASU West was one from the very beginning that was a great partner back in the day. And then Glendale Community College was really great to do the parent conferences. The activities of AIA kind of went stagnant for a couple of years, and there was discussion to dissolve the organization. And there were still people like Kimberly and Esther and Katie and Sheila who felt like there was still a need for the need to continue this organization, but they felt like they needed an organization, a fiscal sponsor to continue to strengthen the organization. That was Intertribal Council of Arizona. So today we have two bank accounts or accounts that we follow. One is the Desert Financial account, and then the other one is Intertribal Council of Arizona's account. So for the Desert Financial account, under our checking, we have $2,358.81. And our savings, we have $30,417.47. And I'll make sure to reflect that in the minutes. And then for the ITCA account, it's remained pretty stagnant about probably the past 7-8 months now. There's been no expenses coming out of that account, or no new expenses going, or no income coming into that account. Unfortunately, I don't have access to those, to that information at this time, but I'll make sure to work with Sheila as we do the transition so that in future meetings we can have that report, that portion of the treasury report provided at future AIA meetings. We were at the last time I had checked, we were a little bit in the red. ITCA was very gracious to cover many of the expenses for the last couple of years, with some minimal income coming in from membership and some of the AI activities that we had sponsored in the past. But there is a red in that account currently. So that will conclude my treasurer's report. And again, if anyone has any connections to the tribes or to the prior members, that would be very helpful. And John, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, hi, Travis. I'm sorry, people, I haven't been around for a while, but it's good to be here. And my question for you, Travis, is I think I we have to do a membership annually, right? And submit payments. Remind me who I send that to. Could you put that in the chat, I guess? And
Yeah,
and the amount?
sure. Kim, you might need to help me with this. I think individual membership is $25. Institutional membership is $50, and then corporate membership is $100. And that
Okay.
is an annual membership. And I will put, let's see, yes. The
Good, thank you.
link, they'll put the
Super.
link in the chat so that you can download the application. And you can write the membership check out to ITCA in care of AIEA.
Okay, not to Travis Lane, huh?
No, I wish you could.
Okay.
Oh, I'm always welcome to take donations these days. But no, yeah, please write the check out to ITCA in care of AIEA membership.
Thank
And
you.
those are the correct amounts, Travis.
Okay, thank you. And if anyone else, does anyone else have any questions? Thank you. That concludes my treasurer's report.
All right, thank you so much, Travis. I'm not quite sure how that mark came on the slide. This is, like I said, this is my first time using an online PowerPoint, so I apologize. Again, if you have any questions, please just put your questions in the chat box or send them to our Gmail. We'll be sure to answer them as soon as possible. So thank you, Travis and Sheila. Next, we have our Indian Education updates, and we are going to start with our Office of Indian Education with the State Department. So I'm going to turn it over to Lynn. Is Lynn still on? Yes.
Hi, I'm here. Thank you, Kimberly. Hi, everybody. I hope you're all having a great Friday and looking forward to a great weekend. And just wanted to, I don't have very many updates right now, and really that's because we have new leadership, and so we're kind of in this transition phase right now. As you may or may not know, we do have a newly elected superintendent of public instruction for the state of Arizona, and that is Superintendent Tom Horn. He has brought in, his leadership team, and so again, we're going through this transition of our office. In several of the past years, our office has kind of been moved around in different areas within the department. I know initially, we did have a director of Office of Indian Education, and that was Nadine Grainig. And at that time, the office was under the policy department or policy division, policy and government relations. And then the Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion was created under Superintendent Hoffman. Our office then moved under EDI, and then for some time had moved back to policy and then back to EDI. And so again, our office has moved to several different places, and under my predecessor, Serena Danetzosi. And so I came into this position, and I apologize, I'm the Deputy Associate Superintendent, as Kimberly said. And I came into this position in June. We were still under EDI. And then now that we have new leadership, we are now located under academic achievement. And so the Office of Indian Education is now under academic achievement. And our new associate superintendent, her name is Catherine Barrett. And so again, new leadership, new location, but through all of that, our focus still continues to be the same, and that is, serving and supporting the educators who then serve our Native American students, also our parents, our caregivers that serve, that have students in our schools or that have their children in our schools. And so we are looking forward to several hopefully exciting events that you all will be able to join in on, whether it be in a presentation capacity or whether it be in as an attendee. We are looking to host a high-level stakeholders convening. This is an invitation-only event. It is per our statute, and it is going to include representatives from the governor's office, from ADE, so our superintendent, his leadership. We're hoping to also have tribal leaders, state legislatures, our state legislators, also tribal education department directors, and of course, LEA or school and district leadership as well. We're looking at hosting this on March 3rd. And so we'll be sending out that information and those invitations to the stakeholders listed in our statute. And then we are also looking forward to hosting a couple of youth conferences that are going to be focused specifically on tying current academics and the academic standards to college and career beyond high school. And so we're looking at hosting one in the spring and one in the fall. And then we are also looking at hosting our OIE Stakeholder Summit. I know that hasn't been held in a few years, partly because of COVID and then partly because of just change in staffing. And so we're looking at hosting that this summer, hopefully in June is what we're looking at. And that will be, all stakeholders will be invited, students, caregivers, program directors, schools, education staff, administration, anybody representing tribes, tribal community members. And so we will be sending out, once we start to solidify dates and locations, we'll certainly be sharing all of that information out. I do encourage you to sign up for our listservs. That would be the best way to get information from us. We do have a bi-weekly communication that comes out every 2 weeks. And I believe Sarah's on this call. Sarah, can you please share the link for our, to sign up for our listservs?
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you. So I encourage you all to do that, and we'll certainly be getting more information out. So we're excited about all of these upcoming events. We want to kind of raise the visibility of our office just so that people know that we are here to help to provide information and opportunities and really make those connections to all of our internal and external partners. So thanks for your time. And we will also put, and Sarah can also put in there our email address so that you can contact us with any questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn Ann, for that update. Are there any questions for Lynn Ann for the state office?
Kimberly, I have one question.
Sure, go ahead, John.
Hi, Lynn Ann. On one of the emails, I think it's from the State Department or Office of Indian Education, they have a monthly meeting. Is that a monthly meeting for, I think there's one this coming Monday possibly. Is that relevant to all of us, or what is that? What is the focus of those meetings basically?
That is a great question, John. Thank you for asking that. And you're referring to our policy and programs update. So this is open to anybody can attend. It is held the third Monday of every month. And when we do have policy updates, and in the past, our policy team from ADE would actually join and talk about any updates regarding policy and legislation that were specific to Indian education. However, now under the new administration, there's not a policy team. However, we do intend to continue sharing any updates regarding policy. But the other major part of that, I guess, meeting is our program updates. So we have different program areas within ADE, whether it be, academic standards, or it could be 21st century, it could be CTE. We have many different program areas in ADE. And so we invite them to come share information and opportunities and resources during that time. And so they do maybe like 10 to 15-minute presentations. We also have external partners that we invite in. I know that, Kimberly mentioned like ITEP. So we've invited in the past different representations regarding like educator pathways. We've also invited our higher ed partners to talk about the free tuition that is being offered to Native American students. So our whole goal really is just to connect our education community to those resources and opportunities that are available where they may not hear about them in other areas, and so that's really the kind of the purpose of the policy and program updates meeting. We usually get about 50 to 60 people attending every month. So again, it's open to anybody. So if that's information you're interested in, please join that. And I believe there's a listserv for that as well. So if you just go to the link that Sarah shared, sign up for all of our listservs and you'll get all of our information, because we do have one for professional learning and professional development as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn and John. Are there any other questions? Lynn, I do have one. Does that also change our Indian Education Advisory Council members?
That's a great question.
Because I did see our next meeting was supposed to be in March.
So that is currently on hold. We are reevaluating, because essentially that advisory council is up to the superintendent to convene, unless they then designate that to my office, then that's what we would do. We're currently talking about what the roles, responsibilities, purpose is of that council, but we certainly will look at the prior membership as maybe new members. So I don't know that the council is going to change completely. However, that is on pause right now, and we will be sending out information once we work that through with superintendent and his leadership team.
Sounds good. I know that there's a lot of changes going on, just like we're having here within AIEA, but appreciate the work that you guys are doing there. So thank you for keeping us updated on everything. So we appreciate it. Are there any other questions before we move on? All right, if there are none, again, thank you, Lynn and Sarah, for sharing out that information in regard to the state office. Again, if there's any questions, please fill out the form that Sarah provided, as well as their contact information is also in the chat. Next, we have an update from the National Indian Education Association, a different update, and so I am going to turn it over to Joaquin.
Thank you, Kim. We actually just put out a 2022 legislative review, and I know it went out to our membership, and I know there's a couple of you who probably are not a member because it is a paid membership. So it's not information we're trying to keep hidden or anything. Usually we have a version that is available to link out and share out. I didn't see it on this particular email that we sent out, so I went ahead and just copied it onto a Word file for you all. And even though it is a 2022 legislative review, it does actually have quite a few things that happened at the very end of 2022 in December and at the very beginning of 2023. So I'm not the kind of person who likes to, when we go over appropriations and funding, to go line by line on what exactly was funded and by how much. So I wanted to go ahead and provide this because there's a very a more in-depth breakdown and links to all of the funding that came out of the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2023, signed December 29th. And there were actually a couple of wins for Indian country, I think appropriations for IHS in particular. So I went ahead and just included that instead of going through a full in-depth breakdown. That way, for those of you who are more policy nerds, you can get those numbers. But for those who are looking just for a high level information, you can stick to some of the more high level summaries of the information. But in particular, I think two of the things that came out for native language legislation on January 5th, the president signed 2 native language preservation bills into law, the Native American Language Resource Center Act and the Durban Feeling Native Languages Act. And I think those are 2 big things that NIEA has been keeping track of and advocating for, working on the Hill to get signed into law. So we were very pleased that those 2 particular acts were signed. And then we also have a few acts towards the bottom that came out: the Keep Kids Fed Act of 2022, Supplemental Impact Aid Flexibility Act, the Stand Up Act of 2021, and then repealing existing substandard provisions encouraging consultation with Tribes Act, the Respect Act. So these were all some of the pretty big wins of 2022. I think some of these we may have gone over previously in these AIEA meetings, either Kim, maybe myself. And so this was, these are kind of some of the high level things happening on the national level. So just so you know, and I'm sure you've all been following the news, that Congress has had some difficulties, specifically on the House side, electing leadership and getting committees together. And it's been kind of a slow process compared to other years because of such a slim margin that Republicans have in the House. And so we are currently putting together our advocacy package and for the Hill, considering all the changes that are happening. And it's been slow going because of all these committees that needed to be, committee memberships that need to be assigned. So we are currently preparing for our Hill Week as well, which Kim mentioned. That's going to be March 7th through the 9th, I believe. Stephanie, if that's incorrect, if you could correct me at some point. And we are also putting together our list of speakers, and we're hoping to bring out quite a few big names for those of you who are able to make it. We really want to have a really top line executive members there representing the president, as well, the president's office, as well as the Secretary Cardina's office. And we have an agenda out on our website, but we are looking to get the confirmations on a lot of our speakers. And in with that, we are actually, we just got news this morning that we are kind of expecting the president's recommendations for the budget to come out in March. The joke here at NIEA is it'll probably come out the week we are on the Hill. So it'll give our team very little time to prep those of you who are able to make it. So we're hoping to avoid that, but the president's budget should be out. We're expecting in March. I'll let you all know any updates if we expect those dates to change next month. And as far as the state level, not a whole lot of action yet. We are actually hoping to put together a kind of top line items to watch on the state level. The one that we are particularly interested in is in Minnesota, where they have been fighting for Indigenous education for all. It's an entire legislative and funding package designed to just bolster pretty much their entire Indian ed infrastructure on the state level. And that will include a Native Education for All like bill with curriculum and standard requirements for the state in public K through 12. And we are expecting that bill to pass just because they have, it's been a split legislature, but now they have one party trifecta with the Democrats. And so they have been particularly, especially the governor's office, particularly wanting to pass that education package. So we might not get everything we want in Minnesota, but I think that's probably the main headline that we're expecting on the state level. But we do intend next month to bring you a kind of an idea for what the other states are doing as well. That's just the one that comes up immediately to the top of our head because it's something here at NIEA we've been keeping a close look at. So other than that, unless you have anything to add, Stephanie, we are heading into convention for October, and we really would like the participation of AIEA. The convention will be in New Mexico, so it won't be in Arizona, but it'll be in Albuquerque. And we're so close to Arizona, and we're not sure when we'll be in Arizona. I know we're going to Albuquerque next year, and then we'll be in Palm Springs in 2024, and then in Washington in 2025. So it'll be a while to get to Arizona, but we still want, because we'll be so close to you all, your participation. So I know I talked to Kim, and Kim has volunteered to be on our convention committee, but if there's also other executive members of AIEA, we want to just make sure if you would like other people we have from Arizona include membership, or excuse me, a representative from ITCA and Jacob Moore. And then I'll be reaching out to others as well to be a part of that convention planning. And hopefully we can get a good amount of AZ folks traveling out to Albuquerque. So other than that, unless you have anything else, Stephanie, those are my NIEA updates.
I don't have anything else to add. Can you all hear me?
Yep, we can hear
My internet's telling me it's unstable.
you. No, we got you.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you. Unless you have any questions.
All right. Thank you, Joaquin, for that in-depth report. We appreciate all the information that's provided to us, keeps us up to date here in Arizona. And to Stephanie also for joining us this morning. I do have one question, Joaquin. I don't know if Stephanie might have a better idea being in Oklahoma, but because I work with some colleagues from Oklahoma, I think they're kind of in the same situation that our state currently is. So do you have any information as far as the Indigenous education there for the state of Oklahoma with the new governor that came on board? Because from what I understand, he's not too particular with that or in that field. Do you have any updates on that?
So let me turn on my camera. I don't have any updates in particular. Just some, we're hoping that we can get some Native education for all in some other states. So hopefully maybe they can be the model for Oklahoma. We do have a new, it's still the same Governor Stitt, but we did lose Joy Hoffmeister, which was our an advocate for Indian education here in Oklahoma. So that part is going to be a struggle, I think. But I do believe that we will still work together to make sure that we have Indian ed pushed in our school systems.
Yes, you are correct that it wasn't the governor, it was the superintendent of instruction there and the state that had to switch over. But yeah, we've just been shared, because I'm alongside other colleagues from Oklahoma that share out their concerns for what direction they're going to go in now. But yes, definitely much advocacy to continue for that across all the states. And so again, thank you, Joaquin and Stephanie, for the updates on the national level. We always appreciate you and for joining us and taking time to be with us. Is there any other questions for you there, though?
Yes, you said 2025 was Washington. Is that state or DC?
Yep, that state. I believe it's going to be in Spokane. Could you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
All right. I have to make a note of that. I've never been up that way. So that would be a wonderful trip. I hear it's so beautiful up there, and one of these days I'll make it up that way. So thank you again. If there's no other questions, then thank you again, Joaquin and Stephanie. And we extend the invitation for you to come back next month. We'll keep you up to date. So thank you so much. Moving on to old business. We do have just a quick update on our winter youth camp. This is going to take place in February 4th and 5th. We've had to push it out a bit just due to wanting to get more participation from students. So this event is open to American Indian students in grades 7 through 12 who live in the state of Arizona. This year's theme emphasizes the ways our ancestors used cultural knowledge of the surrounding environment to sustain a way of life for our people. Our theme is braiding the elements of life. So we chose that theme. Let me drop the camp registration link that you'll be able to share out to any students who might be interested. The themes that we're going, or the elements, there's 4 elements that we're going to be highlighting, which is the fire, water, air, and land. And so these are 4 elements that are going to be discussed and shared out from a cultural perspective. As far as the fire, it's going to surround that spark or the around the home and family teachings from infancy, including ceremonial teachings. The water is that planning stage about your life, your home, moisture, new beginnings. It signifies growth. The air is the life and implementation that you get from the life cycle. It's also the ancestor and our spiritual connection about the feeling we get when we feel our ancestors near. So the air turns or is a little bit different when you have that feeling. And then finally the land, which is a reflection, we see it as a gift. And that reciprocal relationship that we have, we take care of the land will take care of us. How are we taking care of what was gifted to us? And so these teachings and values embedded in the land provide sustainability of our livelihood. And so these are the 4 elements that we are going to be focusing upon for our youth winter camp that will be coming up, just due to the safety protocols, not only for our students, but we do invite elders to be a part of the camp. So due for the safety of them, also, we are going to be having the camp virtually this year. And I'm thinking this might be the last year that we're going to have it virtually, but we'll see how it goes as the year progresses and what the health conditions are and safety protocols are for that time. But this is going to take place over a weekend. It's going to be a Saturday and Sunday. I don't anticipate it to be an all-day thing, but it will take the majority of the day, at least all morning. For the presentations, we have some great presenters lined up. So again, if you know of any students that are willing or that are interested or may be interested, please direct them to the registration link so that we can get them registered for the upcoming winter camp. It is happening soon. And so we do want to make sure that we encompass and get the student packets. We have student packets that we're going to be giving out to the students also. So we do want to make sure that those students are registered so that they receive the materials ahead of time. So that way they'll be prepared for the presentations that will be happening. So again, February 4th and 5th, if you have any questions, you can either reach out directly to me or to my co-coordinator, Enrique Salt. I'll drop our information there in the chat. For any questions or more information, just reach out to us for that. Are there any questions? All right. If there are none, we'll quickly go into new business. For new business, we're going to quickly discuss the 2023 student scholarship, our executive officers, our membership, and some bylaws. But first, there was an event that took place earlier this month, and I am going to turn it over to Esther to share out some information about this event. So Esther.
All right, thank you, Kim. I appreciate it. I was fortunate enough to attend the 28th Annual Indian Nations and Tribes Legislative Day on January 11th. It was a beautiful day, a little cold, but it still went well, and it didn't rain. I was thinking it was going to rain, but it did go very well. And I see that you have some wonderful bullet points here. There were lots of tribal nation leaders there. There were also lots of legislators who were available and on site. The first portion was the check-in and the resource fair. The resource fair was wonderful. A lot of our local and some colleges and some tribal resources were tabling there. And so you got to walk around and mingle and pick up a lot of information that was relevant to what you would like to do. And then that was on the Senate lawn. And then after that, from 11 to 12, we went on the Arizona State Legislative floor. Well, we were up top, the ones who were not speaking, not the legislators, but we were able to sit up top and listen in onto what was going on. There were some special speakers there on that day. Oh, and you have them right here. Wonderful. Chairman Terry Rambler of the San Carlos Apache Tribe, Chairwoman Tanya Lewis of the Yavapai Apache Nation, and then Chairman Timothy Navangayoma of the Hopi Tribe. And each one spoke on their specific points. And we're speaking directly to the Vice Chairman Craig Andrews, and also the Honorable Warren Peterson, Senate President, and Honorable Ben Thomas, Speaker of the House. So they were also speaking, well, the one who spoke directly to us was Timothy from the Hopi tribe. And some of the major points, I mean, it is always good to network and meet our friends and our tribal leaders, but the important part was listening to what the three guest speakers were talking about. And so I did make a list while I was there. Some of the important items on the floor were to talk about water sustainability and conservation. That was a major point for all three speakers. It is important that we look at the water and how that's being sustained. There are lots of different companies that are taking the water, not paying for it. And also, let's see, the next point was the destruction and mining of sacred sites, the Bears Ears, the Grand Canyon, Chaco Canyon, and other sites as well. One of the points was foreign water regulation. So we have China and Saudi Arabia who are using Arizona water, and they're only being charged 1/6 of the market rate compared to our local water regulations. And so they would like to see added taxes to those two countries who are using our water in their land. They'd like to give tax breaks to local farmers and construction owners who are using the water locally, and that money would be paid locally as well. Another one is they'd like to see a national land management plan. What are we doing with our land, and how can the tribes talk with the local government and to bring in those tribal consultations and make those solid and a regular
I think we lost you, Esther, for a second there.
Yavapai people are part of Arizona's history, and that is coming up shortly. It's called Exodus Day. Can you hear me?
Yes, you are back.
Okay. And then that the Yavapai Apache are going to be recognizing Exodus Day, the day where the Yavapai were removed from their homeland. And then they're looking to further discussion and different legislation bills on the session. They want to remind that our legislators that Arizona Native Americans have been here in time of memorial, and that's across our nation, and that they need to be respectful of our land, our water, our sacred sites, and also the history that has been done to our people throughout the years. So that was a big point from the special guests, tribal leaders that addressed the Senate and House of Representatives. The next portion was our lunch, which was normal on the lawn, and then followed up by 2 different breakout sessions. I attended one of them. So there was the Partnership to Support Young Children and Families, and that was presented by First Things First. And then there was also the Native Youth Community Organizing and Civic Engagement presented by United Nations Indian Tribal Youth and NABI, so that was Unity. A lot of our youth attended that session, and they were working on getting to know one another and being able to share out without any apprehension that we are our brothers and sisters, that we can learn to support one another, and Unity being one of those organizations. And then they had some questions and answers, and were given some awesome t-shirts from NABI. So that's a small summary of the legislative day. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Esther, for that great update on the Tribes and Legislative Day that takes place. I unfortunately was unable to attend just due to lack of funding and as well as just some office duties I needed to take care of here. But I do appreciate Esther and being there, and for those who were able to attend, they always give out great information and updates to our attendees there, specifically for our tribal leadership. And so I did drop a link in the chat of the video link that you'll be able to, I don't know how long they keep it on their site, but on the state site, legislative site, but you'll be able to hear the speeches from all three of the tribal leaders at the legislative day that they addressed to Congress. And so if you want to just pull that so that you'll be able to take it or be able to watch that at a later time. It does run at a little bit over an hour. I was able to listen to it last night, and so that really great information and a lot of points that they did make. That was one of the high points that, as Esther mentioned, was the water, the lack of water and the water resources within the state of Arizona. And so just the points that they share out is very important, because it does affect all of our tribal membership and our communities. And so again, thank you, Esther, for providing that great update on the legislative day. And if there's any questions, please feel free to forward them to Esther. Everything goes to Esther. No, I'm just kidding. Or it can be shared out to our Gmail address for AIEA. So again, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Just to follow up, right after Legislation Day, the Arizona Education Committee met right afterwards downstairs, and then Tom Horn did mention some points on his new leadership and items that he's going to be changing within ADE. So we're just going to be following the different reports and seeing what's going to be changing, and that will be for another meeting.
Sounds good. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of updates as soon as we get everything squared away at the State Department level with our new superintendent of instruction. So fingers crossed and continue advocating. So thank you.
He's already, and he's already in the process of changing several policies.
Yeah, so we definitely need to keep on our toes with the advocacy portion of that. And so which is good news, which we'll talk about at the end of the meeting today. So hopefully you'll be able to stay on with us. If not, of course, this is recorded, will be up on our YouTube at a later time. So any other questions for Esther? All right, if there are none, moving right along, we have our student scholarship. This is a call. Basically, we don't have any information other than just to call for committee members. So if you are interested in serving on the student scholarship for this coming year, please drop your name in the chat, specifically student scholarship interest, and with your email so that we can pull that contact information and reach out to you. We will start meeting here shortly to start in on that application process. We do want to try and get that out sometime in the spring and provide award notices in the fall. We're hopeful that we'll try and get it out as early as possible. August is probably the earliest we can get it out, because we do want to allow time for applications to come in, as well as notifications to go out to give enough time, because we do invite our awardees or the recipients of these scholarships to join us at the either October or November general meeting, whichever is most convenient for them. And so again, if there is anybody interested in serving on the student scholarship committee, please drop your information in the chat to let us know, and we will reach out to you so we can start that process. We've had a great committee in the past. Over the past years, we've had a tremendous joy in reading these applications. We have such outstanding students that do great work that sometimes it's hard to make the decisions and selecting just one student for each of the scholarships. But we do have several scholarships that we give out every year. Each year, it just depends on the funding, amount of funding that we're able to provide out for these scholarships, as well as the theme that changes every year. And so we do want your input and assistance on this. So again, if you're interested, please let us know. Esther is actually the head for our scholarship committees. And so if you are interested, you can either reach out directly to her or just reach out to our AIEA email. Esther, did you want to add anything more to that?
No, but I think we'll definitely have a great team this year. So please, we'd love to have you on the scholarship committee. We are looking at, I'm looking at making sure that these go out timely and that we get a lot of more participants this year. So I definitely need your help. We do have a rubric that we follow, so it is fair judging and a point system for each portion of our student scholarship. And I'd love to have you on our team.
I have a quick, sorry, I have a quick question. Do you want people to reach out to you by a certain day? That way you guys can kind of get a head start on when you want to start your process?
We'd like you to reach out before the next meeting, so we have that committee established within 1 month.
Yep, so before February 17th, I believe is the date.
Yep. And there is a lot of independent work as well. So, I mean, it's not meeting after meeting. We'll meet, give the directions, and then you'll have your own time to review each of the applicants and score them on your own. So we're not asking you to spend too much time in a group setting, but some of this would be on your own.
All right, any other questions? We'd love to have you on board, Sarah. All right, everybody, if they could. We need all the help, but thank you. All right, if none, we'll move on to next on our agenda. I did want to just make note of our executive officers. As I've been mentioning for this meeting, we have had a change in our leadership. And so I did want to notify our membership. I did provide some information to those who were on the December meeting. So this is kind of a repeat, so I apologize again, but it's been very difficult trying to find some time in between to continue AIEA responsibilities since starting a new position. And because of this, our secretary, Jerry Thomas, had sent me a letter to relinquish her official capacity of the AIEA secretary. And so this, her new position takes precedence, of course. And of course, when working with students, it does take a lot of your time. So we did provide some sentiments to her that I'm hoping that she reviewed on the recording and the tremendous work that she did for our organization over the years. And she's been on board since I remember her coming on as a graduate assistant and helping us with our last youth conference. And she just stuck with us and has always been a tremendous help. And so we greatly miss her, but we are very happy that she has pursued her journey in the career that she is currently working with. She does continue to work with students with Indian education there at the Salt River Pima Community, Salt River Community. Getting tongue twisted, but she's again just has done a tremendous job for us in the meantime. So according to our bylaws, Article 6 under officer, Section 6 under vacancy, any officer vacancy may be filled by appointment by the president with consent of the general membership. The newly elected officer shall serve only for the remainder of the term. This vacancy will be filled until the next election in October 2023. So if anybody is interested in serving on our leadership as an executive officer to fill that capacity, please let me know. And we can bring it before the general membership and make that appointment to you or any other interested persons that may want that position. And so that way we'll have a full board, because currently we do not have a secretary. So that was the reason why we are tabling our minutes. But if you know of anyone, again, interested in wanting to serve alongside our leadership, please direct them to us and we'll make sure that their name is put up as one of the interested persons. Are there any questions? Okay, If there are none, we'll move on to membership. And so we did want to keep this on for from our last meeting because again, we did not have a quorum and there weren't too many that had joined us at that time. But we do want to make note that the membership fees are, or the membership dues are due. And so purchase orders may be sent to ITCA. Payments are currently being accepted. If you're paying by check, please make those payable to the Intertribal Council of Arizona and care of AIEA. And other payment options are currently being reviewed. We are looking at trying to look at alternative options of payment, such as the Cash Apps, the Zelle, PayPal, Venmo, whatever apps are out there. But we're looking to see if that can be provided for more convenience for a lot of our members who would like to pay utilizing that those applications versus trying to write a check. But the application is online. Esther or Travis, if you don't mind just dropping that in the chat. So that way, I think Travis had dropped it in earlier in the chat. Now that I think about it, but it is an application. Yes, he did. But the application is online. It's a fillable form, so it's easy to complete. Just complete that, print it off, and then mail it in. And then we'll make sure that your name is listed as being a member of AIEA. We do have some incentives. As you can see from our winter camp, you do the AIEA members do get a discount. So school districts who are members, that goes for all the students, a part of that school district. Organizations, institutions, the same for you. The discount applies to all that are members of that organization, school district also. So that's some of the incentives that we have, as well as getting announcements and updates on a timely basis. And so again, membership is out. It is 1 year. It is, as we mentioned earlier, it is an annual membership. Annual membership runs from November 1st to October 31st. And that's just to accommodate our elections that are held in October. And so if you haven't paid your dues, then we do ask that you please pay those dues, get those dues paid. This is one of our only incomes right now that we have outside of our youth camps and educator banquets that we have flowing into AIEA. And we're looking at other options for futures and bringing back conferences either for parents or for youth again. But in the meantime, this is what we have to sustain us. And so we encourage you to get your payments in on time. Any questions? All right, if there are none. Next, we have our bylaws, and I'm going to turn it back over to Esther. She would like to share some information in regard to this. So Esther.
Thank you, Kim. All right, and so we are currently looking at updating our bylaws. As it says here, it has not been updated in since 2000. Well, it was executed on 2007, and there was recommended changes in 2016. However, it has not been officially updated and brought forward to the board. It is time that we make sure that this happens. So we're putting together a committee. So yeah, I'll be running 2 committees, the scholarship and the bylaws. This will require you to Zoom a couple of meetings and then adding suggestions to the bylaws, which will be in Google, and we'll be able to share those in our Google Drive and check the updates as we move along. I would like to call for you to be part of this committee. It is really important that we put these into place because there are some changes that need to be done and completed. And so until next month we'll begin. So for this next month, I'm calling to see if you could please email me if you would like to be part of the bylaws committee. I know it's boring and looking at the different, policies and things, but this is very important and part of our responsibility for AIEA to make sure that these are kept updated. So please, if you'd like to be part of that committee, let me know. My email is bitterwateraz@gmail.com,
Uh-oh, we lost you, Esther. Okay, well, thank you, Esther. Again, she said if anybody is interested, it is something that does need to be done. I know our executives has talked about the trend, in the transitional years that we've had for AIEA. We do have a recommendation, so we will send that out also to the bylaws committee members to review. We do have the original bylaws that we are currently operating under, as well as a recommended bylaws that we started. I think Travis and I were trying to remember, Katie, you may have been there during that time too, but we couldn't remember if it was 2015 or 16, where we actually went through the line by line bylaws and we provided recommendations for that. And so we will send both those to Esther and she can share those out with those who are interested. So again, please contact her if you're interested in serving on this bylaws committee. We do need to get started on that, and she does want to start meeting next month. And so, any questions? All right, if there are none, I actually forgot to put the slide in for any program share outs, so I apologize. So I am going to allow anyone to share out any events or upcoming activities that you have for your program before we adjourn the meeting for today. So I am going to go silent for a little bit. And if you would like to share anything, any information out, then please just unmute yourself and share out. Thank you.
This is Katie. It's not so much of a share out, but I'm trying to get information. So usually mid-year, we have our Title VI application that we submit for revisions for positions that were not filled. And I'm just trying to get ideas. What do other schools utilize with their funds? I know, they like the best practices. They said they were talking about how each district was different from another in the services they provide. So there really wasn't a list available, but I'm just trying to look for ideas on how to spend down without, using so much supply money, which it seems like all of our funds always go towards. So I'm just seeking ideas on, what services do the other schools provide?
Katie, which funding did you say this would be coming out of?
Title VI, Indian education.
May I? I'm sure everyone has some ideas, but Title VI is obviously different from JWIM, but yet still have some cross objectives that work for each. Some of those objectives are academic related, but can also bring in cultural education as well. So obviously speakers would be good. Tutorial books on, like, you can give some of your calculus students some, what are those called? Those like calculus for dummies. Those are also helpful. Math manipulatives for students that fall under the area of STEAM, science, technology, engineering, and math. There are kits out there for STEAM. If you look at the different teacher resources, those are important. Those can be given to anyone who's in math, or specifically for students who are in construction or some of those fields. That is one thing, and emphasis that I teach when I'm out there is that STEM component, but I also include the arts as well, the cultural pieces. So if you bring in a presenter to speak about creating jingle dresses, make sure that they understand that jingle dresses also include science and math. And so that does qualify as part of the Title VI funding.
Thank you for that update and information for sharing out.
Yes, I was busy writing. Thank you.
Are there any other announcements or program share outs that you would like to share?
Um,
Go ahead,
yes.
Esther.
Like, so one of my roles, one of my many hats,
We lost you again. You went silent, Esther.
all right, can you hear me?
Now we hear you.
Okay, so yeah, my connection is unstable, even though I have, I live right in the city. So I am at the Polytechnical campus, which involves a lot of students who are in the STEM fields, are right in my area. We get along really well. And then, but with coming in, they
Now you froze. I'm sorry, Esther, you're in and out on here.
is to give a morning blessing and kick off our semester in the right mind, making sure they feel blessed. And so this coming Tuesday on the 24th, well, let's see. Okay, so Tempe is having their morning blessing at 9 a.m. And then I will be having our blessing at Poly at 9 a.m. on Tuesday. And so I think this is a real important piece. They may not, feel that they need prayers, but I think that it's also important to make sure that they understand that their elders, we are praying for them to be successful, to make sure that their studies go well and that they comprehend everything that their teachers are teaching them, and that they go throughout the semester knowing that they're being watched after and prayed for. So that is one thing that I'm bringing to ASU. Throughout the next couple months, I'll bring in presenters because we have a lot of Navajo students who are from Arizona and don't understand the Pupash Otham culture and don't understand different ways that they eat and their regalia. So I'll be bringing those presenters in as well. And then also bringing in cultural presentations for myself. I'll teach beading, different moccasin types. So a lot of hands-on activities to make sure that they can take something with them to their rooms. So they're not just pure studying and academics, that they also have that cultural piece as well. As for my own business, Bitter Water Design, it's on Instagram, Bitter Water Design 480. I am also, that is what I do. I also teach cultural lessons at different school districts across the state of Arizona. And so that is growing as well. I'm very happy and pleased with what's been going on. I've been doing some conferences, MCs, and then teaching our younger students the same thing as well. I'm happy to announce that I just picked up a contract with Native Health. So keep a lookout for those activities and you're more than welcome to register. So I'll be at the Mesa Native Health and Central location as well. So if you are in need of any cultural teaching in your area, please let me know. You have my email address, bitterwaterdesignaz@gmail.com. So yeah, if you have any other questions about funding, I was at Mesa Public Schools and well, I'm not there anymore, but I still do know how to spend that funding. So just reach out to me if you'd like. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. Is there any other announcements or program share outs? Okay, I see none. I do want to mention, just as an announcement on behalf of the National Johnson O'Malley Association, that the annual conference for this year will take place in Chicago, Illinois, and it will take place in the fall. We were trying to look at getting it in the spring, but it's just not happening and working out for us just due to hotel availability. So we are going to keep it in the fall time. We're looking at the first or second week of September to kind of give you, those of you who plan on attending, to just kind of keep those dates on your calendar. We will get a confirmation date, hopefully within the next week. We are working with some hotels on some concessions that we would like to have that will accommodate all of the attendees. So again, that's the National Johnson O'Malley Association Annual Conference that will take place this year in Chicago, Illinois, around September time. But I'll keep you updated for when those dates get confirmed. In addition, still along the lines of JOM, I also sit as a Region 1 representative for the National Johnson O'Malley Association. So we do hold an Arizona State JOM Forum that will take place next Thursday, the 26th, January 26th. It will take place from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. I will drop some links in the chat. Unfortunately, or I'll probably send those out by announcements, because I can't get to it right now, just because I'm doing the PowerPoint online. So once I get to that, then we'll be able to share those out to you. It's a contact form that is put out through the Office of Indian Education at the state level for contact information in regard to the JOM, Arizona JOM Forum. But again, that's going to be coming up next Thursday from 9 to 12 our time. And it is by Zoom. So if you're able to attend, there's a lot of great information that's shared out. We always have. We've been fortunate that we've had the Bureau of Indian Education representatives that have joined in on those forums that we've had in the past. And so they answer a lot of questions that we have that we want answers to. And so if it's just a really great informational sharing time. So again, that's next week. But I just wanted to put that out there and share with the membership here that that's in regard to the JOM. As far as Title VI, for those of you who do receive Title VI funds, they did have a webinar last week in regard to the Indian Education Committee and what that entails. And it's actually a PowerPoint. So those who do receive Title VI funds, if you go to the Community 360 website, they do have that slide deck up available for you to download and to review what was shared out. There's a lot of questions that was presented during that webinar session time. I believe they do put those question and answers up on their website also. But I do encourage you, for those that receive Title VI funds, to review what was put out there during that time. There's a lot of great information that even myself, I learned a lot just attending that webinar session itself. So, but that's just a few quick announcements that I forgot to mention at the beginning. But is there any other announcements or share outs? If there are none, then we have our final slide, which is adjourning the meeting. So I just want to say thank you, everybody, for your patience. I know we went a little bit over time. My presentation actually went a little bit more than I anticipated, but I appreciate your patience and hanging in there with me, and for listening in and for joining us at the meeting today. So with that, if there's no other announcements or comments or questions, then I'd like to call for a motion to adjourn. Unless everybody wants to stay.
Motion to adjourn. This is Travis.
This is Katie. I second.
Too quick. No. All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passed. We have adjourned at 1:06 p.m. So we're just a little bit over. So thank you again, everybody. We look forward to seeing you next month. Have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Enjoy the rest of your day and take care and be safe. We'll see you.